Okay, welcome to the Whitehead Files. I'm really excited. Throughout June, it's our Jubilee special, Queens of Industry, and I'm going to our fantastic law enforcement. I have with me Sandra Smith, Positive Action, PC Sandra Smith, Positive Action Strategic Lead for Bedfordshire Police. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Caroline.
And Samantha Alexander, she's Positive Action Lead and Fingerprint ID Officer and Expert, and she's also from Bedfordshire Police.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi. Hi. So I'm going to sort of just like kind of read the statement and kind of roll in and ask you how you became part of the police, what took you there. But I'm going to read this statement first. It's hugely important to us that we are inclusive public service, which has career opportunities for everyone. We've worked with young influencers from the women of colour in policing movement to get the message out. Uniting the movement demands that police service and the wider ecosystem acts differently in order to close the gap on the inequalities experienced by a range of communities and individuals, by bringing together people with lived experience, change makers and innovative thinkers for women of colour in policing. Okay, so we'll talk about WoCiP, that's the acronym, Women of Colour in Policing, in a minute. But first of all, starting with you, Sandra, what took you to the door of policing?
Oh my gosh, have you got all day, Caroline?
No, I haven't.
I was going to say back in the day, so we won't say how many years because then you'll know my age. But at the start of my career, I wanted to actually join the Air Force, failed my medical, passed the entrance. So I was going to fall into policing, but my mum was dead set against it. So I went and grew up in retail and then became a manager at a very young age. Spent 30 years in that career, 15 of those in Ireland. Building UK stores, opening UK stores, recruiting large teams. I then came back to the UK at the end of 2014 and realised policing in the UK hadn't moved on, and decided rather than stand on the sidelines, I would come in and be a PCSO in Hertfordshire. But I realised that as
what does PCSO mean?
Police Community Police Officer.
Right.
So really connecting with those diverse communities. Within 3 months, I realised that I could give so much more, and I got involved in the world of diversity and engaging with all those different communities. And actually, my portfolio was Black History Month and putting back Black History Month back on the map for Hertfordshire Constabulary. I then, at the end of last year, decided to transfer over to Bedfordshire Police. And this is how I've kind of progressed and met Sam, and we'll talk about WoCiP later. And my world has just kind of turned upside down, and I've never done so many interviews as I've done in the last year or so.
Wow. Wow. So it's kind of like sort of open things up. I mean, for you, while we're waiting for this to work here, but for you, what is? I'm a new person considering joining the police. What would you tell me? What would you say to me?
I'd say you have two choices. First of all, we hear what's happening in the media around Black communities, and we hear all the negative vibes about policing. So we can stand on the sidelines and continue to kind of moan about the injustices and the lack of apology from policing, or we can step inside and be that change. And that's what I decided to do. I decided to come to the table and no matter how small, try and do something. It's not an option to do anything. So that's what I'm all about. Not forgetting our lived experience and the journey that we've all travelled as a Black community, but to progress and move forward, because it's all very negative, isn't it? But yeah. It's not really. When you're on the ground and you're speaking to our Black communities, it's not as negative as the media makes out.
Yeah, because the media want to tell a story, don't they?
Yeah.
And they actually want to sell newspapers and increase clicks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And Samantha, what got you knocking on the door of policing?
Well, my entry into policing came from work I did in forensic psychiatry. So I worked at a hospital in North London, in between the community and the hospital, and I engaged with lots of officers around Section 136, which is to do with the Mental Health Act, arresting people and taking them to a place of safety. Those people on locked wards and so forth, I came into a lot of contact, and the good kind of conversation around you should join the police. But I didn't really want to be a frontline officer. I was always interested in forensics, which is around, you know, pertaining to law. And then a job came up for a fingerprint examiner. Everyone thought I was crazy, taking a pay cut, going into the police in general. But it was something that I thought the time was right. My mum had a stroke, and I thought these were like little signs that I can just take time to pause and consider. And I went into policing at the Met. Great experience. Lots of things, being the only one. My mind was set that, to become a fingerprint expert. That's what I was looking at. The long-term goal was what I wanted to achieve.
Fantastic. And I know that Sandra's been like all over the place with the policing. Ireland, did you say, Sandra?
That was my first career. That was retailing.
That was retailing.
I spent a number of years in Ireland.
Right.
But you know what? It gave me an education around the police force over in Ireland, to be fair. I thought I was going to come back to the UK and it was going to be far different and far more progressive, but it actually wasn't. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to join.
Right. Okay. And Samantha, have you always been with Bedfordshire Police?
No, I started in the Met Police, and then from the Met Police,
and for people who, because obviously there are lay people sort of watching this. So the Met Police, is that national police? What's the Met Police in that context?
So the Metropolitan Police covers London, and it's a vast force. It's made up of so many different borough commands within it. So I covered northwest of London, but also when you're on operation, you cover whatever area that operation is covering. So Met is the biggest. It's a national police force. That's where the commissioner is based. The commissioner of police is the home base, and then we have all our other forces around that feed in.
Is that where we see the big sign spinning round that says Scotland Yard?
Yeah, so Scotland Yard is like the base, if you like, the head office, of policing. And actually that's New Scotland Yard, because the old Scotland Yard ×2 is gone now.
Oh.
We were based at Scotland Yard, James Street. And then we moved to another area in London, and the central hub was moved again. So people often come and stand outside the sign just to get their photos taken, because it's a national treasure as well.
Yeah, that would be me.
Shiny.
So we've set the scene, all right, and then I want to know, and I'll start with you, Sandra. I'll go back to you. I want to know, Sandra, how did WoCiP come about? Women of colour in policing. How did that start?
Well, the national group, which is the NPCC, which starts from the top, it's the National Police Council. They set up a tactical women's group for women of colour in 2019. And I went to a conference and I saw all these women in uniform and in rank, and just was so inspired and walked away back to my own force, and it wasn't reflecting. I was the only at that time, and that's only 2019, the only Black female police officer on the front line that was visibly Black. So I was looking around, I couldn't see anyone that looked like me, no one in the ranks that looked like me. And as time went on, I lost my mum in 2020, and I always mention her on these platforms because it's important that we recognise our strong Black women who were the first. She died in 2020, and I really got disillusioned with policing because I thought this is not progressing. I've come from the private sector, which we don't sit on our hands. Everything progresses so fast, in policing so slow. And I one day just woke up and thought, you know what, I'm going to put out a call for to our women of colour to tell their stories. Didn't really think anybody would step forward, but I was surprised. Women stepped forward. 2 years in policing, 5, 20, 30 years in policing, women of colour. And their stories were quite similar in terms of, you know, being in policing, done a fantastic job, lack of progression. They don't feel like the organisation sees or hears them. And the more I talked about to the chief constable and all those chief officers about what I wanted to do, we are a tri-force, so we've got Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire and Cambridgeshire. And the more I put out a call for a direct call for action, the more women step forward. And then when I transferred over to Bedfordshire Police, I met Sam, and we talked the same language. And WoCiP just has just thrived to the point now where it's now going on to a national platform. So across 43 forces, the national are going to adopt the brand, treat it like a franchise, you know, like McDonald's, how you have integrity around the brand, but you kind of lend it out to the different forces. So we never come on a platform like this and not talk about all the first, like, you know, the first Black female, Cicely Faye in 1968. We talk about Karpal Sandhu in 1971, the first Asian female officer. So we always mention them because they were the first, and we wouldn't be sitting here talking about WoCiP if they hadn't have paved the way for us. So this is what this is for. This is. So, you know, it's Jubilee Year, it's Queens Jubilee Year. The Queen's been around for a long time, longest serving on the throne. But I wanted to look at Queens of Industry, and you're mentioning those trailblazers. Yeah, and absolutely. We have to mention those trailblazers. And you know, some of us have received the kind of the Platinum Jubilee medal, and I hold it up because I'm kind of donating mine to all those strong Black women, not just in policing, but also in the community that are doing fantastic work, and they are the unsung heroes. So yeah, that's where my medal is being donated. That's fantastic. So you're dedicating that to all the strong Black women out there. And I know that Sam has got the similar medal, but she can't find hers. Not great.
No, I'm working from home.
Have you made them into earrings, Sam? Are the earrings now?
They're ring. No, I'm working from home, so mine should be safely waiting for me.
Right. Yeah. Right. Brilliant. And so following on from what Sandra said about, you know, how WoCiP started, what was the feeling for you?
The feeling for me was the voice of many women like myself who are always the only one, and recognising that across the organisation. I came from the Met, as I said before, and when I joined, I was the only one. And we talk often about the burden of one and what that's on our shoulders, you know, but not to let that, you know, slow us down. And it wasn't until a good few years in that I saw other Black female forensic staff and experts, and that kind of camaraderie, you know, no words spoken, just that look, you know, that says, you know, we're here, we're supporting, and we can support from afar. And then as I journeyed on in policing, that was apparent. So, you know, for WoCiP came at that time where we're talking about underrepresentation, we're talking about how we address certain issues, but we can't address those issues internally without support. And then also being the voice of those women in the organisation and say, you know, I'd like to see that representation further up. But then when we do work, you know, we get reached out by other organisations who say similar things. You know, we've got people in our positions, women who are reaching out saying, can you transfer this into our schools or into our organisation? And it's made us realise, you know, that the work WoCiP is doing to hear the voice of the women, and they are critical in this. The women are the ones we walk alongside, we walk with, and they build us up as well.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And have WoCiP got a Facebook page or somewhere where people can watch what's going on, or activities or comments? Have you got anywhere where people can join or have a look?
Yeah, we're just about to set up a platform linked to Bedfordshire Police. So we're just waiting for that platform to be handed over. Sam does a lot of tweeting around women of colour, and I noticed, Caroline, you retweet a lot as well. I'm doing a bit through my page as well, but we are waiting for that page for WoCiP, because we want our women also to know that it's safe space, that they can say, you know, they can connect with us, and when they connect with us, it is a safe space, because the conversations that develop once you connect with that woman of colour is just amazing. You don't expect those stories to come out, but they do. Well,
people can while you're setting that up, I can sort of filter information through the Zebra Partnership page on Facebook, and also as well on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. So, you know, I can filter some of that stuff through until you're set up, and if there's any kind of gatherings that you're having to get people together. So I keep going on about Jubilee Year, because we've got to celebrate Queens. What Queens in the police service, I've got to stop myself saying force. When did that change from force to service? Do you know?
Well, we call it the organisation as well, so I think it has many different names.
Yeah. So who's been recognised? Because a lot of people have been recognised, but I've heard a rumour that a lot of women of colour in policing have been recognised. Can we have a bit of a discussion about that? Who know?
Yeah, well, we heard this morning about Karen Marie Geddes from West Midlands Police, the first Black superintendent officer, high ranking, have been awarded a Queen's Police Medal, QPM, and we pay homage to her as well, you know, as being the first, or one of the first. And it's amazing for us because, you know, it's iconic in terms of representation and what we're looking up to. Also in the world of forensics, which I'm in as well. I come from the world of forensics. Varsha Mystery is a forensic practitioner manager. She's been awarded the British Empire Medal, huge accolade, you know, and she's worked vastly across lots of scenes and, you know, jobs that we don't even know what goes on in the background when it comes to forensics. It's a very arduous task, as is policing. And also we heard not a female, but someone that we've done work with, and we watch their work, and they are so much for youth and cohesion, is Michael. And the work that Michael Wallace is doing with Kick Off at 3 is instrumental in building bridges, working with communities, working with the police. That piece around the cohesion is really important, and it's what we say in WoCiP as well. We need to change the narrative. We need to also have people externally from our communities join policing in order to do that. But he's also, you know, doing that community work around building conversations. He's a youth lead for the Met Police. And, you know, when you see that, when you see representation, you have to celebrate that. You know, today has been a really brilliant day in terms of people of colour in policing, particularly women.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's great. And Sandra, have you got, because we're going to try and pull together and wrap up now, have you got any final words that you want to add?
Well, I think what we said right at the beginning, that this is a direct call for action. This is a movement that's not going to go away. 2022 is very, very important. We've still got 6 months left in this year to make that difference. The time for talk has passed, and whatever we're doing is to make that difference. So for me, it's like, for members of the public or for colleagues, stop asking why we're doing this piece of work, and let's just crack on and get it done.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay.
I'd like to give a shout out also to our young WoCiP influencers. They are the creators of all our little clips and videos on social media. These are young women from the age of 14 to 17, very innovative, very creative, and look out for our clips on Twitter. They're TikTokers.
You know, it'd be nice to meet them.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's happening in the summer? Something's happening in the summer.
Yes, we've got a summer event, save the date, 30th of July in Flitwick, Bedfordshire, and we're going to let Caroline do your magic, and Bedford Police will be also advertising, and also the Black Awards around, coming and celebrating. And this is going to be led by our young WoCiP influencers. These are today's generation. So it's a summer festival. Come and enjoy. There's going to be a lot of entertainment, and most of all, the message is support women of colour in policing.
That's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to thank you, ladies. I'm going to wrap up. So we stand on the shoulders of courageous women who paved the way in policing, walking with their greats, still on their journey and acting on the voices of innovative young women to come. I am with women of colour in policing. Two of the brainchild of that is Sandra Smith and Samantha Alexander. Ladies, this is the first time I've been interviewing the police as opposed to the other way around. I'm only joking.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you very, very much for joining me. Sandra, thank you for joining me earlier this month. Well, no, it was last month in London for the Chartered Management Institute conference. That was a joy to have you there. And Samantha, we will connect. And also hope to see the young WoCiP influencers at the end of July. This is Caroline Whitehead. This is the Whitehead Files. Thank you for watching.